Hi, Catherine. My name is Ellen, and I will be correcting these essays for you today. Let's take a look at what you have written here. It's your first set of essays. The first one is about schools and whether they should be more entertaining. Let's see what you had to say about this topic. Teaching styles in schools are highly related to students' academic performance and outcomes. Although the traditional classroom is common in many countries around the world, I believe that a lively and stimulating classroom would promote students' learning outcomes. This essay will analyze both issues and use examples from the University of Edinburgh and the city of Shanghai to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, grammatically it's beautiful, lexically it's beautiful. It's very nice. It's a very well written paragraph, so congratulations, that's great. I have one concern. In your attempt to rephrase the language in the prompt, you may have gone a little too far. And by that, I mean a lively and stimulating classroom is not necessarily a synonym for entertainment or entertaining. Okay. And this is something that I find a lot of people really struggle with in this particular essay. It's really, really important as you begin these essays to understand and to, underline and really kind of analyze some of the key words in the prompt. For me, one of those keywords, if not the main keyword here, is entertaining. So take a minute or so to think about what entertaining means. What are some synonyms for it? What do we consider entertaining? So entertaining is funny, entertaining is amusing, something that kind of, whisks you away. So these are the things that we should be thinking of: fun, funny, amusing, lighthearted. Okay. And so, why I'm telling you this is that because lively and stimulating are not entirely synonyms. Okay. Something can be academically really enriching and something really, as you used here, the word stimulating, but that doesn't mean that it's also entertaining. Okay. So, you have to be careful with this kind of language, and you have to make sure that you're using words that are in fact synonyms that do appropriately rephrase the topic. Okay, so that's my concern here. And what it does for me as an examiner is that it raises a red flag and it makes me think, uh-oh, maybe this is going to be an off-topic response where we're talking about engaging classrooms and academically enriching, but they're not necessarily entertaining. So that's my red flag. And like I said, as an examiner, that's what I'm going to be looking out for to see if you did something like that. Perhaps you did, perhaps you didn't. We're going to find out. So let's take a look at what you did after this. Firstly, schools should provide an entertaining study environment to students. Well, it should be provide something for somebody. This is because children can maintain their enthusiasm for studies when studying in such an interesting way. For example, a recent study from the University of Edinburgh has shown that children tend to keep a more serious interest in learning those tedious science courses such as mathematics and physics, through activities rather than in traditional classrooms. Besides, learning entertainingly, that's not really a word, would encourage young students to achieve creative potential. Therefore, it is necessary to make the class more amusing. All right, so I'm happy about some of this. You didn't do what I was worried you would do. So you talked about amusement. You talked about entertaining, even though the word was a little awkward. Let's see what else. In an interesting way. But yeah, it was a little theoretical. It was a little abstract. You didn't really give us any sort of kind of tangible information about this. So I would have ideally liked that. Let's see. Again, interesting is not a synonym for entertaining, so you have to be careful with that. You could have said in such a fun way. That would have been a better word. Let's see. Through activities, through enjoyable activities. So just using the right language to show that we're talking about entertainment is really, really paramount here. Again, I would have maybe liked a little more depth to this, so I don't feel like you really fully covered it. But, grammar is very good. Everything is really, really well done. But I'm saying that from like a language perspective, like a grammar perspective. And even the coherence of this is good, and the cohesion, it's well done. But task achievement, in part because of vocabulary, these two things are not 100% where they need to be. Okay? So that's my first impression from your first body paragraph. Let's take a look at the second body paragraph and the conclusion. However, there is no doubt that schools should give priority to educating children. This is due to the fact that most students lack self-discipline, especially among pupils. What? Most students lack self-discipline? That doesn't really make sense. Pupils and students are typically considered synonyms, so I don't understand that. Take the students in Shanghai as an example. They easily got distracted when teachers tried to entertain the classes. Apart from that, students can effectively develop positive habits and improve literacy qualities through traditional teaching styles. Consequently, schools should keep focusing on education rather than entertainment. Okay. Let me see what you said here. I see. Okay, we'll talk about this in a minute. All right. To conclude from the examples and arguments given, comma, here, I strongly agree that students should study in an enjoyable classroom. Wait. I strongly agree that students should study in an enjoyable classroom rather than a traditional one. It is predicted that children would be more creative to foster innovation. That doesn't make sense. Habit would be more inclined to foster innovation and become productive members of society in the future. Maybe that's a better option. It's not perfect, but it's better. Okay, so let's talk about what happened here. Your grammar is great. So that's wonderful. That's a great place to be starting off at. If you have really good grammar, you've got a major problem that a lot of students face licked. So good for you. But let's talk about this. Look at what the essay asks you to talk about. Which do you agree with? Okay. And then you said, I believe that lively and stimulating, et cetera, would promote student outcomes. So you've told us what you support. All right. And that's what we then expect to read in the essay. But look what you then did. You said, this essay will analyze both issues. My question to you is, why? If they ask you which one you agree with, and you said, I agree with this one, then there's really no logical reason for you, number one, to write this sentence, and number two, for you to have this paragraph at all. All this paragraph really does is it weakens this argument. So you have this great argument about enthusiasm, about entertainment, etc., etc. And then suddenly you come in and you weaken that argument by talking about this. So that's not effective, okay? So what you're looking at here is a problem with essentially coherence and cohesion, but also task achievement. It kind of falls under both those categories. What I would suggest to you instead is, if you want to argue the opposite side, you can, but do it in a way that is more effective. And I'm going to tell you how. The first thing to do is to put this paragraph first. This paragraph then becomes your concession paragraph, where you show how open-minded you are and how, how broadly you've thought about this in such a wonderful way. And that's great, but it should come first because it's the paragraph you do not support. Okay? So we do that first. We put it first, and then we talk about the side that we do support. This is really the best way to organize these paragraphs. But that's not enough. What you also have to do is make sure that you've informed us about what you're going to do in your introduction. So it's not enough to just tell us, oh, this essay will analyze both issues. It's not enough to just tell us, I believe that this is the best, et cetera, for student outcomes. But you need to do something that really kind of acts like a roadmap for what the essay is going to talk about. So based on what I saw in your body paragraphs, I would say something like, while there are some disadvantages to having entertainment in classrooms, on the whole, I believe it is a more effective way of teaching children. Okay, because this talked about the lack of self-discipline and the distraction. So when you write it like that, while I agree that there are some drawbacks to this, okay, so there you show us that you're going to talk about this. On the whole, I believe this. And then that explains why you have this paragraph. Okay, so those are my suggestions. And if you take those suggestions and you start implementing them, what you're going to do is first of all, it's going to be more cohesive because then everything you have here really makes sense. It's linked, it's united. It's a better way to do this. Okay, so try to implement some of those suggestions. In the meantime, let's take a look at this enjoyable activity with a child. Now, the question here asks you, to what extent do you agree? Again, you can do the same kind of thing where, while I believe this, on the whole, I think this. Also, that's okay. Let's see what you did. It is true that parenting a child is the most serious problem among parents all over the world. Well, I wouldn't call it a problem necessarily. That's not really the best word for this. It is true that parenting a child is the most serious undertaking, issue among parents all over the world. Maybe. Although developing a positive habit of reading from children's early age would be helpful for their future lives, I believe that children can gain more skills and be more creative through many kinds of activities. This essay will analyze the issue and use examples from America and Australia to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Firstly, participating in various activities is a useful way for children's brain development with no S here. This is because children can directly acquire and boost skills such as problem solving, teamwork, and social skills through doing activities. For example, students in the US are encouraged to go to a lab to do some experiments rather than stay in the classroom and read the theories when they are learning chemistry. Students need to collaborate with others during the experiment and tackle problems creatively when they are facing challenges. Furthermore, capitalize your F here. Some educational games also increase no, not increase. How about some educational games also compel, motivate youngsters to use imagination or require, that's even better actually. Some educational games also require youngsters to use imagination and achieve creative potential. Therefore, children will develop all around, through taking part in enjoyable activities rather than just reading books at home. Okay, I like this. I thought you could have said a little more about this. You talked about the skills they can develop. You talked about creativity as well. So that was good. I wanted you just to add one little sentence about this creativity part. Other than that, it was good. Okay. Secondly, admittedly, children can improve skills by doing some reading. This is due to the fact that reading improves children's literacy qualities and engages children, careful here, and engages them, because you already said children, engages them to express their feelings creatively. For instance, in Australia, children are required to read books in their early years in primary schools. After reading several books, these children can clearly express themselves by using creative words and also show self-confidence when making a presentation. Besides, bedtime stories are a good way to tell children about the events taking place all over the world and play an important role in developing their critical thinking skills. Therefore, reading is important for children's development. Okay, this is good. You know, there are certain words I always say in IELTS that you really can't substitute. You really can't find a synonym for. But one thing that I felt was really, really overused here was the word children. Look at this. Children, 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 children. So that's a lot. You could have done a couple of things. You could have, number one, you could have used pronouns. Number two, you could have used words like youngsters, okay? Or, just rephrase the sentence so you didn't have to keep repeating that word all the time. So that's something. It was a lot of children. And it stuck out to me. Usually it doesn't, but it was just so many times in this paragraph that it really kind of stood out. So just be careful with that. Try to find another alternative way or use a pronoun, as I already said. So this gets a yes for me, but there is one problem. We're going to talk about it in a minute. In my opinion, although reading is of importance, I firmly believe that involving children in some entertainment you've adjectives here, but where's the noun? So in some entertaining and joyful activity, instead of reading, will develop superior skills and make them creative. Therefore, they will be well prepared for their future life and achieve career success in the future. All right, that's lovely. Now, let me tell you what my concern was. So again, it's just like what we saw in the previous paragraph. To what extent do you agree? You said that you think they will gain more skills and be more creative through other kinds of activities. So that's your opinion. You never told us that you're going to talk about the benefits of reading. You never said that there are benefits to reading. And so that for me creates a problem. All right. You really should have. You should have alerted your reader to the fact that you're going to talk about both sides. And you should have said that while reading provides numerous benefits, on the whole, I believe children can gain more skills and be more creative through other kinds of activities. That would have been ideal. Then, since you are talking here about two opposite sides of the argument, you did not want a firstly and a secondly. Firstly and secondly work when you're talking about the same side of the argument. So, for example, an activity that promotes creativity and an activity that promotes, confidence or teamwork. Okay. And you compare these with reading. That would have been okay. Do you understand what I mean? But here you're talking about two opposite sides of the coin. So activities here, reading here. So it should have been something else. It could have been on the one hand, on the other hand, or you could have had nothing, which is also really effective, believe it or not. And then here, if you want to show that you're switching gears, you could say something like that being said, or having said that, or something like that. Any of those would work. And that would be fine. But yeah, these are the wrong words here. And again, you really want your introduction to act like a roadmap. You want it to be a mirror of what your body paragraphs are about. So that's something I would like to see you doing more successfully in your following essays. Okay. On the whole, I think you're off to a great start. Your writing is really very good. It's at a great level. We just have to work on some of these more or less are test taking skills or writing skills, but your grammar, your language, your vocabulary, all that is really well controlled. So good. So what you have to do next is to correct these essays based on the suggestions you've heard today. Return those to us. This is the corrected essays. Also, don't forget you need to write an error correction list with the mistakes and the corrected version next to those. And you want to keep adding to that with every essay you get back from us. And of course, the third thing you need to do is write a new set of essays. So I would really like to see all three of these things in the next day or so you can really keep your momentum up and keep up your progress, okay? We'll meet back here with those three things and we'll continue getting you ready for IELTS, all right? So thanks for sending these in and good luck on your next set.